What's going on, guys? This is you. Welcome back to the YouTube video. Today, we're going over a build. Yes, it's our first Destiny 2 build video, guys. This build is one that I'm actually especially kind of proud of because it is a build that focuses on the Void Walker Void 3.0 subclass. And boy, is this one a doozy. It is insanity. It is correct. You see what's going on this screen right now? This is exactly what this build is doing. Essentially, there's so many buffs and stuff that's happening right now on the screen. It's just unreal. And I'm just here to tell you guys that this was by far my most favorite build and will always be my favorite build. It sucks that it's going to have to be going away at the end of the season, essentially because of a bunch of the mods that we're using are seasonal artifact mods. On the screen right now, guys, should be all the stats of this build. As you can tell, this build is mostly an ad clear build, but it can be used in other ways, such as DPS. For the most part, this build is by far one of my most favorite builds to use and will always be my most favorite build to use. As far as intros go, let's go ahead and dive right into the build. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this build is essentially one of my most favorites. I've definitely used it in a couple of raids already. This is likely going to be the build I take into day one. Volatile Disciple. It's really fun. So first off, I'm going to go into the Synaptic Spear and show you everything that I have unlocked so far. So from 0 to 5, you're going to want to go ahead and grab all the champion mods in the first column of the artifact. Afterwards, you're going to want to grab Melee Wellmaker, Font of Might, Thermo Shock Plating, Glaive Scavenger, Unstoppable Glaive, Suppressing Glaive, Overload Grenades, Lucent Finisher, Volatile Flow, and Suppressive Darkness. The most important perks of these is, first off, you're going to want to grab the Overload rounds because Overload rounds are essentially good for the SMG you're going to be using with this build. The second thing that's going to be good is anti-barrier bow. So, for example, if you aren't going to be using the funnel web, you're going to be using the void bow. So this is another good alternative. You're grabbing thermoshock plating in case you opt to use a arc or solar chest piece. You're going to also grab Font of Might for the fact that it's much cheaper than 5, which is the original cost of this mod. You're going to want to grab Overload Grenades because you're going to be generating grenades constantly. You're going to constantly be getting grenade energy and whatnot from this build. It's literally that much fun. Then you're going to be grabbing Vault. Then, most importantly, this is the icing. This is what brings this flavorful build to life. Volatile Flow. Picking up Void Elemental Well grants Void Weapons volatile rounds. This is by far the most broken mod that I've seen since Energy Charge, or whatever the artifact mod was for Season of the Splicer. Now, of course, you can grab other mods after you've essentially picked up everything from here. But this is going to be the main mod that you're going to want to find and grab, aside from the champion mods and Font of Might and Melee Wellmaker. Alright, now, of course, there are, things that you can use other than Void Walker, or such as Well, Stormcaller, Stasis, etc. But the reason why you're going to be wanting to use Void Walker is with the new 3.0 builds. This is where things get interesting. First off, you're going to be using a Healing Rift, then you're going to be using Burst Glide, then you're going to be using Pocket Singularity. This pairs well with Necrotic Grips. You're going to figure out why in a second. Then you're going to want to use Vortex Grenade. So essentially, Vortex Grenade pulls enemies toward it and getting Void kills. Since it matches Void, you're going to be getting more wells from Elemental Arsenal, or or whatever. You're gonna grab Child of the Old God. So essentially, casting a Rift causes you to create a Void Soul. Whenever you damage a target with the weapon, Void Soul flies and drains them, weakening them, etc. When a target is being drained, you are granted grenade and melee energy for running a Healing Rift, which is essentially why you're running the Healing Rift, or health if running Empowering Rift. You're always going to be running the Healing Rift because you're going to be constantly trying to get your grenades and melee abilities back to keep this build going. You're going to also grab Feed the Void. Since you're going to be using a lot of Void weapons, Void everything, you're going to be trying to get Devouerer. Devouerer, essentially, when Devouerer is active, you feast on the energy of your defeated foes. Final blows restore you to full health, grant grenade energy, and extend Devouerer. Essentially, this is just broken. Next up, you're going to be grabbing Echo of Expulsion. Void abilities cause targets to explode, so this is really good. Echo of Reprisal. Final blows surrounded by combatants grant super energy. This is how you're going to get your super pretty decently fast. You're going to get Echo of Undermining. Essentially, this here is Oppressive Darkness from Season 9. The only downside to this is you're going to have minus 20 Discipline, which is why, again, you're going to be running Child of the Old Gods. Then you have Echo of Remnants. Your lingering grenade effects, which is Vortex, Void Wall, Void Spike, Axiom Bolt, have an increased duration. This essentially turns this into a complete destroyer. It's amazing. This is by far my most favorite build to use in this game. In terms of weapons, you're going to want to grab Partner Dust, with Blinding Nades, Perpetual Motion, and Vorpal Weapon. Mostly you're going to want to grab this for the Blinding Nades. If you don't have a Blinding Nades Partner Dust, you can also get a Blinding Nades Ignition Code because it's essentially the same exact thing, but it's whatever. You can also want to grab Wither Horde, Osteostriga, Fatebringer, and Praetor's Revenge. These 5 weapons are like the 5 kinetic weapons that I'm mostly using in terms of this build. Partner Dust is in case I'm going for DPS. Praise Revenge is essentially for Oracles and Vault of Glass or Burst DPS. Wither Horde is for damage over time if I'm using a Lasting Impression Royal Entry. Fatebringer is there for the Ad Clear, and the same goes with Osteostriga. In terms of your energy slot, you're going to be wanting to grab a Subsistence Frenzy Funnel Web. Funnel Web is a Void SMG, and it's the first Void SMG that we've had in a very long time in chat. This is practically Recluse, and it's insane. So essentially, with the seasonal mod that you're going to be using with this, which I'm going to mention again here shortly, you're going to be turning this machine gun, SMG, into a killing machine. It is absolutely destructive. I low-key feel bad for all the ads and the raids that I've done so far with this. You're going to grab the Under Your Skin. It's also a Void Bow. You can get Explosive Head. Explosive is actually kind of nuts on most of the bows that I've seen. And this is, again, this triggers the artifact mod that causes them to explode. You're going to also want to grab the Glaive, the Enigma. This is, again, Void. And then you're going to want to grab Likely Suspect, again, Void. Of course, these two are not leveled up enough. I'm not planning to use these yet until I get the right rolls that I need for them. But you do want to grab them because Likely Suspect was doing some work, but it's not the best fusion rifle. And the Enigma is a Void Glaive with Kill Clip. I mean, it's not that bad, honestly. In terms of heavy weapons, YouTube, this is what you're going to want to use. You want to use Parasite, Xenophage, Gallowhorn, Whisper of the Worm, the Herring, and Royal Entry. Ignore this right here. And Half Truce is there for the Eager's Edge, but you're not going to be really using the Eager's Edge as much as you used to. Here's how this is going to work. Essentially, the fact that you're getting so many kills with this, that you're going to get the burst DPS from Parasite. Parasite has the exotic perk Worm's Hunger. This weapon fires higher worms with explodes on impact. The size and damage scales with the number of enemies you defeated before firing. essentially, since you're going to be doing a lot of ad clear, you should hit times 20 on this baby in no time at all. You'll also be using the Royal Entry with Lasting Impression if you choose to go down with a Horde. This is good for damage over time, but it's not good for burst DPS. Gallowhorn, it's good for burst damage and ad clear, but again, like I said, you're going to want to use Parasite because Parasite can do massive damage if you can get all the stacks to proc correctly. You're going to want to also grab a Red Herring with Vorpal or Lasting Impression, again for the same exact reason as Royal Entry. If you don't have, this is of course if you don't have Royal Entry. Royal Entry is obviously the better of the two, but still. Whisper of the Worm, essentially from what I heard, Whisper of the Worm is supposed to be very good in the new raid, but that's kind of the only reason why I grabbed it. I'm currently working on the Catalyst, but I don't think Whisper of the Worm's not the best for this build, but you can definitely use it if you need to. In terms of armor pieces, you're going to want to grab a Dreambane hood or any helmet with a Void energy. Alright, and essentially you're going to be using the following mods on your helmet. You're going to be using an intellect mod for you're going to be using a recovery mod to get a little extra recovery because recovery is always good. Void Siphon, since you're going to be getting a lot of void kills, you might as well use this to your advantage to get Void Orbs of Power. You want to also use the Grenade Ammo Finder, or in this case, you could also use Fusion Rifle Ammo Finder, Sniper Ammo Finder, anything that really is an ammo finder to what you choose to use. You don't have to use the exact same weapons, but this is what I recommend you use in terms of this build. Elemental Armaments. Combatants' weapon final blows with a damage type that matches your subclass escalates a chance of spawning an elemental well. So essentially, if you're using Voidwalker and you use Funnel Web, this increases your chances that Funnel Web generates a well. Now, of course, you want to keep this on even if you choose to not use a Void subclass, just because mainly it's just no reason to change out a mod to stop an entire raid team. Just to change out a single mod. But of course, there's also Nezarec Sin, which of course is there for Void ability kills, which again is really great. Then you want Necrotic Grips. Now, there's a reason why you want to use that melee that I told you, because Necrotic Grips cause damage over time, and that attack, that powered melee attack from Voidwalkers, is a ranged melee. So you can literally throw that thing out, and it'll just rip your enemies apart. This is gross. This is grotesque. This is crack. Now, you're going to want to grab a Discipline mod to add a little bit of extra grenade energy, because you're going to be using up a lot of grenades. You need Discipline to keep the minus 20 down to a minimum. You're going to also want to use Overload rounds. You're going to want to also use Piercing Bowstring again, because just in case you have to use the bow instead of an SMG. But it really doesn't matter what you do in terms of champion mods. You're going to use whatever the activity requires. Anyways, Reaping Wellmaker. Whenever you cast your class abilities, such as your Rift, whenever you use your Rift, this essentially turns that Rift into a Void Well. You're going to kill an enemy while you're in that Rift, and that Rift is going to give you a Void Well. You're going to pick up that Void Well for the seasonal mod. Again, you're going to want to also grab a pair of gauntlets that has Void energy as well. Same reason. You're going to want to also use again, you want to use Discipline as well for this. You're going to also use Reaping Wellmaker for this, for the same exact reason. And same way, if you're going to use Nothing Manacles with Scatter Grenades, you're going to use Reaping Wellmaker as well. In terms of chest armor, it's recommended that you, of course, have your one of every attribute just for the damage resistance and the sniper damage resistance, concussive dampener, etc. You're going to also want to grab Enduring Wells. Enduring Well is a void wall ability that makes it to where your lifespan of elemental wells extend, and if you use multiple copies, they stack and they further extend the lifespan. However, if you need to swap, you can also use Font of Might. Font of Might, picking up a elemental well that matches the subclass type, grants temporary bonus damage of that same elemental type, making your weapon slightly more stronger. This is where things get interesting. You're going to want to use a void piece of legs. We're going to grab void legs. You're going to essentially, again, have a discipline mod on. You're going to have better already. You're going to have some submachine gun holster because you're going to be using an SMG with this build for the most part. If you choose not to use an SMG, you can also use insulation, which is just as good, if not better, but it's whatever. You're going to then grab Volatile Flow. Volatile Flow is a insane mod. Essentially, picking up a void elemental well grants void weapons volatile rounds. This is crack. This essentially makes it to where if your enemy dies, they're going to blow up more enemies. Those enemies are going to get volatile. Then they're going to blow up, and it's just a mess. And this thing in VOG was stupid. It was insane. Last but not least, when you go down to the bond, you're going to be using the following mods. First off, you're going to be grabbing, again, a discipline mod to combat discipline problems that you're going to be going up against. You're going to be grabbing Suppressive Darkness. If you don't want to use Suppressive Darkness, Lucent Finisher, Suppressing Glaive, if you go for the Glaive, or any of the other mods will do just fine. You're going to use Overload Grenades because this essentially makes Void Grenades good, and really, this makes it even more stronger because you've already got Overload handled at that point. Then you're going to grab Font of Might. Font of Might, again, pick up an elemental well that matches subclass energy, will grant bonus damage to that same elemental type. This is just stupid. This is stupid because, like, you can mix and match whatever you guys want. This is what I've been using, and it's been insane. So yeah, guys, this was just complete annihilation. Like, this was by far my most favorite build to use in Destiny 2. And that's essentially the build. That's it right there. I absolutely loved using this build. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video or the next stream, whichever one comes first. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time. Have hope. God bless you. See you guys next time. Peace out.